You've been lied to. Not casually, not accidentally systematically. Since you were a kid, people drilled a story into your head. Be kind, be patient, be generous, be understanding. And if you do all that, people will treat you well. They'll respect you, they'll appreciate you. But there's a truth almost nobody wants to confront. Your kindness isn't being rewarded, it's being used. Every time you said yes when you desperately wanted to say no. Every time you dropped everything to help someone who wouldn't even lift a finger for you. Every time you swallowed your needs just to keep the peace. You weren't building loyalty. You weren't building respect. You were teaching people exactly how to take advantage of you. And the worst part, you didn't even realize it was happening. See, we were raised on fairy tale advice. Turn the other cheek. Good things come to those who wait. Treat people how you want to be treated. Well, it sounds beautiful. It just doesn't work in a world where power and influence shape everything. And whether you like it or not, power dynamics run through every corner of your life. Your relationships, your job, your social circles, even your family. Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago, and his warning is more relevant today than ever. Kindness without power becomes a weakness. Goodness without boundaries becomes an invitation. So if you've spent years doing everything right, yet still feel overlooked, disrespected, or quietly exploited, this video is for you. Let's talk about why kindness alone is not enough. Let's talk about why being good is not the same as being respected. And let's talk about how to stop letting people use your goodness against you. But before we continue, comment this affirmation below. I choose powerful kindness. Now let's get into the first truth. 1. The kindness trap. Here's something uncomfortable. When you're endlessly nice, people don't remember your value. They remember your availability. Think of the people you always show up for. The ones who know you'll pick up the phone, drop everything, adjust your plans, and carry their problems on your back. Now ask yourself honestly, would they do the same for you? If you hesitate even for a second, you already know the answer. This is the paradox of excessive kindness. You become the person people rely on, but not the person they respect. You become convenient, predictable, useful, replaceable. People don't value what comes without cost. They don't appreciate what has no boundaries, and they don't respect what never pushes back. When you're available 24/7, your time becomes worthless. When you never say no, your yes becomes meaningless. When you give freely, people stop feeling grateful and start feeling entitled. And here's the saddest part. You might think this is what love looks like, but if constant giving earned respect, you'd be drowning in it by now, not searching for answers on YouTube. Kindness is not the problem. Your lack of boundaries is. Because here's the second truth. 2. Goodness without power is invisible. You can be honest, loyal, hardworking, and pure-hearted. But if you have no power, no presence, no boundaries, no voice, your goodness becomes forgettable. People respect results, not intentions. Machiavelli saw this clearly. Integrity means nothing if you don't have the strength to protect it. You can have brilliant ideas, but if you can't assert yourself, someone else will steal them. You can be the most supportive partner, but without standards, you will be taken for granted. You can be the most devoted friend, but without boundaries, you will become their emotional dumping ground. Goodness is admirable, but goodness without strength is overlooked. And goodness without boundaries is abused. Life doesn't reward the nicest person in the room. Life rewards the person who knows when to be kind and when to draw the line. Because when you're endlessly giving, endlessly understanding, endlessly forgiving, people don't see you as noble. They see you as easy. They test your limits. They push your thresholds. They take inch after inch until you finally break. And by then, it's too late. So let this sink in. People don't use you because they're evil. They use you because you never made it costly to do so. Let's go deeper into something most people never realize until it's too late. People don't just take advantage of your kindness, they're trained by it. You think you're being generous, supportive, loving. But from their perspective, you're teaching them exactly how far they can go without consequences. Read that again. Every time you let someone cancel plans without explanation. Every time you tolerate a disrespectful tone and pretend it didn't bother you. Every time you accept crumbs and call it loyalty. You're shaping their behavior, you're training them, you're instructing them on how to treat you. And the lesson they're learning is simple. I can do whatever I want. They won't walk away. This isn't cruelty. This is human nature, too. The cost of being too good. You can have the purest intentions in the world, but if you come across as weak, people won't admire your goodness. They'll mock it, they'll minimize it, they'll exploit it. Think of someone you know who constantly complains about being mistreated, but never actually changes anything. They keep forgiving cheaters. They keep helping people who never reciprocate. They keep giving chances to people who don't deserve them. Do people admire that person's kindness? No. People think they're naive. People think they're foolish. People think they're easy to manipulate. Machiavelli understood this painfully well. Weakness, even moral weakness, invites attack. You can be good, you can be ethical, you can be compassionate, but if you lack boundaries, you might as well be a target painted in bright neon. History is full of good people who were crushed simply because they didn't understand this. They believed doing the right thing would somehow protect them. But the world doesn't reward purity, it rewards power. And here's a brutal truth. The people who hurt you aren't always malicious. They're opportunistic. Your coworker dumps tasks on you because you accept them. Your friend flakes on you because you always understand. Your partner takes you for granted because you never enforce consequences. People push until they meet resistance. If they don't meet resistance, they keep pushing. Not because they're evil, because they're human. You taught them how to treat you. This is the part that stings. Not because it's unfair, because it's true. You didn't mean to do it. You weren't trying to be weak. You weren't trying to invite disrespect. You simply believed being good was enough. But let's be honest. If kindness alone worked, you wouldn't be here looking for answers. If patience alone earned respect, you'd already have it. If loyalty alone built strong relationships, yours wouldn't feel one-sided. You don't need to stop being good. You need to stop letting your goodness be abused. So here's the uncomfortable truth most people never accept. People use you because you never showed them that there's a cost for hurting you. And that leads us to something Machiavelli knew all too well. Boundaries aren't about controlling others. They're about protecting yourself. Comment this affirmation. My boundaries protect me. Why? People test you. Kindness without strength creates an illusion. It makes people believe you'll tolerate anything. So they start testing. Little things at first. A joke that goes too far. A favor they know puts you in a tough position. A harmless oversight that somehow always affects you. And when you don't say anything, when you laugh it off, when you minimize your own discomfort, that's when the real tests begin. They show up late because they know you'll wait. They bail on commitments because they know you'll forgive. They cross boundaries because you don't enforce them, not because they hate you, not because they want to ruin your life, but because they believe they can. Machiavelli wrote extensively about this. Humans naturally push for advantage. They take what's freely given. They exploit what isn't protected. It's not personal, it's behavioral. But here's the good news. The moment you set boundaries, everything shifts. People start paying attention. People think twice before crossing you. People adjust their behavior because now there's something they didn't feel before. Consequences. The turning point is this. People don't admire kindness without boundaries. People don't respect forgiveness without standards. People don't value generosity without limits. They value what is scarce. They respect what is firm. They notice what is withdrawn. So if you feel drained, disrespected, overlooked, or undervalued, it isn't a sign that you're too kind. It's a sign that your kindness has no armor, and that must change. Now let's talk about something most people never understand until their life has already been shaped by it. Kindness without power isn't kindness. It's vulnerability dressed up as virtue. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He wasn't telling people to be cruel. He was warning them that goodness without strength becomes invisible. Worse, it becomes a target. You can have the best morals, the purest intentions, the most sincere heart in the room, but if you don't have influence, confidence, or the ability to enforce boundaries, your goodness doesn't shine. It gets swallowed. People don't follow goodness. People follow power, not brute force, not aggression, not domination. Power as in self-respect. Boundaries, emotional stability, the courage to walk away, the discipline to say no, the ability to command space without raising your voice. That's what makes kindness meaningful. That's what makes goodness respected instead of exploited. And this brings us to Machiavelli's core lesson. Your values need protection, or they become prey. Let's break that down. 3. Machiavelli's lesson. Goodness needs strength. Machiavelli understood human nature at its rawest level. He didn't sugarcoat it. People act in their own interest. People gravitate toward advantage. People push where there is no resistance. People exploit where there is no cost. This doesn't make them evil, it makes them human. But here's where most good-hearted people get trapped. They assume others think the way they do. You think fairness will be returned. You think honesty guarantees honesty. You think loyalty earns loyalty. You think giving more makes people give more. But the truth is much simpler. People respond not to your intentions, but to your boundaries. Your boss doesn't respect your work unless you make your work visible and protected. Your partner doesn't respect your love unless you have standards around how you expect to be treated. Your friends don't value your time unless you make it clear that your time is precious. This is human nature, not malice. That's exactly why Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." Modern translation. Respect must come before affection. Boundaries before generosity. Strength before kindness. Because when you are kind from weakness, people exploit it. But when you are kind from strength, people value it. Let me explain why. Kindness from weakness versus kindness from power. Imagine two people give you the exact same act of generosity. Same gift, same help, same words, same kindness. But the first person is desperate for approval. Their kindness comes from fear of rejection. They're terrified of losing connection. They want to be liked. The second person, they're confident, respected, secure. They don't need anything from you. Their kindness is a choice. Same action, different energy, completely different impact. The first person's kindness feels cheap because it is constant, predictable, and rooted in insecurity. The second person's kindness feels valuable because it's rare, intentional, and backed by strength. Machiavelli understood this psychological truth. Weakness destroys the meaning of your virtues. Strength amplifies them. That's why he wasn't anti-kindness. He was anti-naivety. Why appearing strong matters more than being strong. Machiavelli believed something modern psychology confirms today. Humans respond more to appearance than reality. You can be brilliant, but if you appear uncertain, people won't listen. You can be moral, but if you appear weak, people won't respect you. You can be generous, but if you appear desperate, people won't value you. So yes, strength matters, but perceived strength matters even more. That means if you appear confident, people treat you like you are. If you appear composed, people speak differently around you. If you appear self-respecting, people stop testing you. If you appear like someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect, they don't try it. Whether it's fair or not, perception shapes power. And here's something crucial. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You need to be consistent. Consistent boundaries, consistent self-respect, consistent standards. That alone changes everything. Why your boundaries are more important than your morals. People think morality makes them strong, but Machiavelli saw it the opposite way. Morality without strength is a liability. Think about it. If you're honest, but you let people twist your honesty against you. If you're forgiving, but you allow repeat offenders to stay in your life. If you're patient, but people exploit your patience. If you're generous, but you give to those who drain you. Then your virtues are hurting you, not protecting you. Boundaries are what give morality its backbone. Boundaries turn kindness into a choice, not an obligation. Boundaries ensure that your goodness lands where it should, not where it will be consumed. And here's the part no one tells you. You don't need to announce your boundaries, you embody them. Every time you say no without apologizing, every time you walk away from disrespect, every time you stop over-explaining, every time you stop being available to people who take you for granted, every time you choose distance instead of justification, your boundaries become visible. And once people see your boundaries, they automatically adjust their behavior, because humans respect what they fear losing, and they fear losing what is not always available. Power isn't domination, it's control over yourself. Machiavelli was not teaching cruelty. He wasn't encouraging manipulation or malice. He was teaching self-rule. And that's the part people always miss. Real power isn't about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself, controlling your reactions, controlling your emotions, controlling your energy, controlling your attention, controlling who gets access to you. When you can do that, you become untouchable, not because you intimidate others, but because you protect yourself with a level of clarity most people never develop. Goodness becomes stronger. Kindness becomes sharper. Your presence becomes heavier. Your absence becomes felt. People treat you how you show them to treat you. Not how good you are, not how loyal you are, not how loving you are, but how powerful you are. And the most powerful form of strength is this: the ability to walk away from disrespect, from manipulation, from imbalance, from relationships that drain you, from people who assume your kindness is endless. Once you master that, everything changes. Now that you understand why kindness needs power to survive, let's talk about something even more important: what power actually means. Because most people get this wrong. When they hear the word power, they think of dominance, manipulation, control, intimidation, or force. They imagine being the loudest person in the room, the one who demands attention, the one who uses fear to control others. But Machiavelli saw power differently, and if you misunderstand this, you'll weaponize the wrong things and weaken yourself without knowing it. So let's make this clear. Real power is not about controlling people. Real power is about controlling yourself. Power is self-governance. Power is emotional discipline. Power is the ability to say no without guilt. Power is the freedom to walk away rather than beg. Power is choosing who gets access to your time, energy, and presence. You don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to be cruel. You don't need to be feared in a violent sense. You need to be someone people think twice about disrespecting. That's real power, and it changes your entire life. 4. The real meaning of power. Let's break down exactly what Machiavelli would consider true power in modern life, because it's not what most people assume. Power is the ability to protect your peace without apologizing for it. Power is the ability to reject what drains you, even when people feel entitled to your time. Power is the ability to stay composed in situations where others lose their minds. Power is the ability to walk away from relationships, arguments, and environments that disrespect you. Power is the refusal to be manipulated because your self-worth doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. This kind of power doesn't shout. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't seek revenge. It simply sets a boundary through presence alone. Machiavelli believed power was rooted in discipline, not domination. Not in forcing others to bend, but in refusing to bend yourself without cause, saying no without guilt. This is one of the strongest forms of power you can develop. Think about how often you've said yes. Yes to favors you didn't want to do. Yes to commitments that drained you. Yes to attending events you didn't care about. Yes to helping people who never helped you back. Yes to maintaining relationships that hurt you. And every yes weakened you just a little more. You didn't say yes because you wanted to. You said yes because you were afraid. Afraid of disappointing someone, afraid of conflict, afraid of judgment, afraid of being called selfish, afraid of being misunderstood. Machiavelli would tell you this: a yes rooted in fear creates weakness. A no rooted in clarity creates power. When you say no calmly, firmly, without over-explaining, you send a message. My time is valuable. My energy is not free. My presence is not a default. My boundaries are real. People start adjusting. They start respecting. They start taking you seriously. Not because you became mean, but because you stopped being endlessly accessible. Walking away from disrespect. Here's something Machiavelli understood deeply. You don't need to punish disrespect. You need to remove yourself from it. Walking away is not weakness. Walking away is control. When you remove yourself from disrespectful environments, you remove their access to you. You remove their ability to manipulate you. You remove their power to influence your emotions. You remove the reward they get from crossing your boundaries. You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. You don't need to prove a point. Your absence is the point. People learn very quickly that the cost of disrespecting you is losing you. And that's the kind of consequence Machiavelli considered the most effective. Not loud, not dramatic, not emotional, but irreversible. Choosing who deserves your energy. Here's where your power truly becomes visible. Most people give their energy away like spare change. They give their time to people who waste it. They give their attention to people who drain it. They give their emotional availability to people who don't value it. But a powerful person is selective. They don't let everyone get close. They don't let everyone get access. They don't let everyone enter their mental space, because they know that the more selective you are, the more people respect the access you do give. Machiavelli understood that human beings value what is scarce. If you are everywhere, involved in everything, available to everyone, you lose your value. But when you become intentional about your presence, when your time must be earned, when your attention is rare, when your kindness is measured, you transform from someone people use into someone people respect. Quiet power versus loud power. This is where most people fail completely. They think power must be loud. They think you must dominate a room. They think you must bark orders or demand respect. But the loudest person is rarely the most powerful. The loudest person is often the weakest, compensating for insecurity with volume. Quiet power, however, is magnetic. Quiet power doesn't need to yell. Quiet power doesn't need approval. Quiet power doesn't beg for agreement. Quiet power doesn't seek validation. Quiet power is the calm person in chaos whose presence alone changes the atmosphere. That's the person everyone instinctively respects. That's the person people fear disappointing. That's the person no one wants to cross. Quiet power comes from composure, from emotional control, from boundaries, from self-respect, from strategic silence. And that's exactly the kind of power Machiavelli believed in. Your kindness transforms once you gain power. Here's the most beautiful part of all this. Once you have power, your kindness becomes stronger. It becomes respected. It becomes valued. It becomes meaningful. People stop expecting it. People stop exploiting it. People stop taking it for granted. Because now your kindness comes with clarity, with boundaries, with self-respect. You're not kind because you're afraid to be anything else. You're kind because you choose to be, and people can feel that difference instantly. Now that we've broken down how power works, it's time to complete the transformation. Because the real challenge isn't understanding Machiavelli's ideas, it's living them. Most people know they're too available. They know they give too much. They know their kindness has no limits. They know they stay in situations long after respect has disappeared. But when it comes time to act differently, to say no, to walk away, to refuse a request, to protect their energy, they hesitate. Why? Because they've been trained since childhood to be agreeable, accommodating, and endlessly patient. That conditioning is the foundation of weakness, and breaking it is the first step toward becoming powerful. This final part is about that shift. How to stop handing away your strength and start living with clarity, boundaries, and self-respect. 5. The shift from kindness to command. Let's get one thing straight. You don't need to stop being kind. You need to stop being unprotectedly kind. Because kindness without limits becomes emotional overextension, letting disrespect slide. Giving second chances to people who don't deserve first ones, saying yes out of fear. Apologizing for things that aren't your fault. Staying quiet to avoid conflict. This is not kindness, it's self-neglect. But kindness with strength, that's influence. Machiavelli never criticized goodness. He criticized goodness without backbone, and that's the transformation you must make. Shift from kindness based on fear to kindness based on choice. Boundaries without justification. A boundary is not a fight. It's a quiet decision. It sounds like, no, I don't have time today. I'm not available for that. That doesn't work for me. No explaining, no apologizing, no softening the blow so others feel comfortable while you feel drained. You don't need permission to protect your peace. You don't need approval to reclaim your self-respect. Machiavelli would tell you, people don't respect the boundary you announce. They respect the boundary you enforce. You don't need to say much. You simply need to stop saying yes when you mean no. The strength of selective presence. One of the most powerful changes you can make is becoming less accessible. Not to manipulate, not to punish, but to restore value to your presence. When you are always available, your time becomes ordinary, your energy becomes expected, your attention becomes cheap. But when you become intentional about who gets your time, people adjust how they treat you. They speak more respectfully, they reconsider their tone, they approach you with more care. Scarcity creates value. Distance creates clarity. Presence becomes powerful only when it is not constant. Machiavelli understood this deeply. A person who is seen too often becomes invisible. Your presence must have weight. Not through noise, through selectivity. Emotional control. The core of power. Here's the truth. You can have boundaries, strong standards, and selective presence, but none of it will work if you are easily triggered. Emotional control is the difference between someone who hopes for respect and someone who commands it. Emotional control means not reacting when provoked, not explaining yourself endlessly, not letting anger or guilt make your decision, staying composed even when others try to push you. The moment someone can provoke you, they own your power. The moment someone can predict your emotional reaction, they can manipulate your choices. Machiavelli understood this. The calmest person in the room is the one with the most authority. Calmness is not passivity. It's psychological dominance. Transformation is uncomfortable but necessary. Becoming powerful will feel unnatural at first. Saying no feels selfish. Walking away feels cold. Silence feels harsh. Distance feels wrong. Self-respect feels unfamiliar. That discomfort isn't a sign you're doing the wrong thing. It's a sign you're finally doing the right thing for the first time. You're unlearning a lifetime of being too soft, too available, too forgiving, too accommodating. This is the death of the old you. The version who tolerated too much and asked for too little. And it's the birth of a new you, one who protects their time, guards their energy, and chooses kindness only when it's deserved. Respect follows power, not the other way around. Once you embody boundaries, control, and presence, people stop testing you. People stop assuming you'll tolerate anything. People stop taking your kindness for granted. People start speaking more carefully. People start valuing your time. People start respecting you without being told. Because you're no longer kind by default, you're kind by decision. Machiavelli's lesson is simple. Kindness without strength is exploitation. Kindness with strength is power. And when you finally understand this, your relationships, your career, and your entire life shift. Not because you became harsh, but because you finally became someone who refuses to be walked over. If you want, I can refine this section for a darker tone, a more motivational tone, or more dramatic narration.